Welcome to Uplifting Interviews with Total Strangers. I've got Allie on board. Allie, are we completely and utterly total strangers?
We are total strangers.
But we've been talking for 15 minutes, so we're like best friends now, right?
We're not quite total strangers.
We're not total strangers. I know a little bit of Allie. She's a humanitarian type. She's doing some great things, helping people. Tell us what you're doing in the world, Allie.
So I'm a statewide community organizer for the disability community across the state of California.
And are there a lot of people that do that?
Well, there's only one position. It's rare that there's organizations that are run by people with disabilities, organizing people with disabilities. So, unfortunately, there should be more.
Right.
Statewide
and so
community organizers.
You work for the government?
No, I work for a nonprofit membership organization of independent living centers, which are support and advocacy organizations run for and by people with disabilities across the state of California, and they're also all around the world. But I work for the statewide membership organization that kind of represents and organizes all of the independent living centers as well as the larger disability community across the state.
So you're California?
I am.
So there's one in every state?
No, there's not a membership organization in every state, but there are local independent living centers in every state.
Are there more disabled people in California than any other state?
Well, I mean, California is has a bigger population, so sure, but therefore, yes, but in general, the population of people with disabilities is now 1 in 4 people, and so we're the largest minority or marginalized population in the country.
Okay.
And
how long have you been doing that for?
Well, it's actually just the start of my 4th week.
Oh, there you go.
So it's a very new job, and I'm here in LA visiting a local independent living center.
Oh, you don't live in Los Angeles?
No, I don't.
Oh, where do you live?
I live in Oakland, California.
Oakland, okay.
Yep.
Now, what is the number one disability?
Continue for half a mile.
In the organization, in disability wise?
We actually don't work on specific disability.
No, I understand that,
but
I mean,
disability.
There's is speech a disability?
Disability. So the organization that I work for and independent living centers are called cross disability organizations. So we work across all kinds of disabilities. So whether that be physical, mental health, learning disability, chronic illness, cognitive, intellectual disabilities, the list goes on and on. So there's actually no particular disability that I focus on.
Okay.
In fact, I always look at, who's most commonly not at the table in decision-making processes, whether that be policy or organizational or institutions, and then I see, are there certain kinds of disabilities that need to be more at the table? Okay. But I don't focus on a particular disability.
Yeah, it's a shame some people take advantage of those disabilities. I see them, with fake cards and things like that. I mean, that's a real big fine for faking a disability.
It is, but I actually would say that that what you just said is one of the reasons why people with disabilities are not seen and affirmed in who they are. I think that there is a larger number of people with disabilities who live true to themselves, and the smaller amount of people do what you say.
Of course.
But that's what we end up focusing on, is the other people, instead of the people with disabilities who are living their full lives with their accommodations or with and often the rhetoric or the attention goes to the people who are faking it, which doesn't really do anything to actually liberate or center people with disabilities.
I interviewed a gentleman on Venice Boulevard, not on Venice Boardwalk, Venice area, right? Mm-hmm. And he was in a wheelchair, and he was only able to use his breath to mobilize himself.
Yeah.
And he had a video camera right in his face, operating the video camera. So I saw him, and I went up to him, and I interviewed him, and he was a very happy guy, and it was a nice interview. I had to get real close because he couldn't talk that loud, and I thought that was made me feel good that he was happy, because as I told you before, when you lose, a facility, you gain, the mind compensates with happiness. So it's all about being happy. You're disabled. I guess you're a disabled person. Do you mind talking about what your disability is?
Well, I have a physical disability. My bones break easily. And then I also have anxiety and depression. So I also identify with having mental health disabilities.
Okay. Now, let's just talk about that for a minute, and you can get my take on it, because I saw someone close to me had a anxiety attack, and it turned into a really serious thing. It was amazing to watch. And I never had an anxiety in my life, because I don't believe in putting negative in my mind. And what I felt, and I actually interviewed a few people after that incident on my show, Uplifting Interviews, and it became one of the most popular shows. More people watch that anxiety interview than most. And what I found is that anxiety, to me, is the fear of the unknown, or the fear of consequence. And I've never had a fear bone in my body. I'm never afraid of consequence or the future or tackling. That's why I've worked in over 79 different trades, because I want to tackle something new and fresh, and I'm looking for challenges. The guy who just called me a minute ago, he asked me to get a diver's license, get certified as a diver, and he wanted to hire me for $1,000 a week to dive for treasures with him. Well, that's number 80. If I get paid for something, I consider it someone's career. And one time I got paid to cook a meal for someone, and I cooked the meal. I charged $700 for the meal, and it came out great. And now I consider that one of my 79 gigs, right? But the point is, I really truly believe that you're putting that anxiety in your head. It's not there. It's something that you could eliminate by thinking positive.
Well, I think it's easy. I think for me, I don't know your truth and your body and how your mind functions, and neither do you know mine. And so I think the first step into anyone feeling like they can feel more motivated or feel more fantastic, feel better, is to actually affirm their experience. Okay. And then to ask why, and then to see, okay, what are some things that you can do to make yourself feel better. And that person knows the most. I think that when people say that, I've had many people in my life, close people to me, as well as strangers, say that, it's all in your head. There's ways, and I believe, I think I have access to therapy. I've been in therapy for a number of years, and I'm so thankful for it. And I think that
what do the people in therapy tell you? Because it is in your head.
It is in my head.
If you're afraid we're going to crash right now because you have a fear of getting hurt in an accident, and there's really nothing you can do about it right now because I'm in control.
Yeah, but I think that I know that there are like physiological symptoms of anxiety that are different than just fear.
Okay.
So, for instance, I often have tightness in my chest.
Okay.
That is a symptom of my anxiety.
It's a symptom of your anxiety. It's not caused by your anxiety. It's a symptom. When you say symptom, it's physiological. Because you know how strong the mind is. It's amazing tool.
I couldn't agree with you more, but I don't think that the way people are going to feel better is to say that, because to me, when I hear you say that anxiety, that it's all in your head, to me, that equates to my experience isn't real. My experience isn't valid.
But anxiety is an experience that hasn't happened yet. It's a future event, correct? Because let's break down anxiety, if you don't mind. Today? Do you have an anxiety about something? Because here's one of the things I say is positive thoughts manifest positive action. Negative thoughts manifest negative action. If you have an anxiety about being late, is you're thinking you're going to be late, and that's a negative thought. Correct?
One of the key characteristics of anxiety is underestimating overestimating the fear and underestimating your ability to get through it.
Okay, I like that. That's
Yeah.
good.
I'll quote, that's Jenna, my therapist. She's a beast.
Thank you, Jenna, for that one. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to hear it again.
Anxiety is the fear, overestimating the fear and underestimating your ability.
Overestimating the fear
and underestimating your ability to get through it.
To get through it. I love that. Thank you, Jenna.
But I think what the distinction we're talking about is anxious is like a verb, anxiety is a noun, and it happens for people at different times, but that's different than living with anxiety as something that impacts you on a daily basis. There's a difference.
Well, they're afraid of life. Some people that are just afraid of life, right, in general. Well, I'm not saying you.
No, but that's what you are, though.
Like
as someone who identifies...
The woman, there's a TV series where she's afraid to go out of the house.
Yeah, but that is a very, very extreme... That is, what's it called? That's an extreme, intense mental health disability.
Okay.
And that is, I forget, some phobia.
Yeah, there's a phobia. There's a phobia for everything.
And it doesn't mean that there's not ways that we can support those individuals in feeling more free and happy, but it also, to me, creates more harm to other those individuals, and to say that their experiences are in their head and they can just change it. Because, yes, change can happen, but it doesn't happen like this.
Right.
And so...
See, that's my whole concept of life is things can change like that if you have the mindset.
Maybe for you.
You have to have a strong mind, I think, is what it is.
I disagree.
Okay.
Because I don't think that...
By the way, I love when people disagree
I do think change
I'd rather people disagree with me than agree with me.
I do think change is possible, but when you have... We know there is so much research now about the impacts of trauma on the body and on the mind.
Well, yeah, I was orphaned at 9. I was beat to within, I was beat quite a bit before all my parents died. And so my sister goes, you have to go to therapy and get all that out, right? Because I never went to therapy. And I ignore it and I suppress it and I believe I'm happy. I think I'm happy. I think, therefore, I am. So I'm not going to think. Of course, I have a really bad memory, which really helps not to have
which
all those...
Which is a part of the trauma response. That's your survival.
That's my survival, is forgetting about it. Yeah. And so I just don't want that as a crutch. It made me, being an orphan at 9, made me who I am. And
that's and the trauma I've experienced has also made me who I am as well, and I'm thankful for who I am.
As you should be.
And though I'd say that it is that your experience and your ability to navigate the world in the ways that you have cannot be the same for other people.
100%. Of course not. Everyone's got a different story. That's why I love uplifting interviews with total strangers. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story, and it's unique in its own way, and it's it's got its traumas and tribulations and what have you. But I just totally believe, and of course, now let me counteract. I love when people don't agree with me. I love it because I don't want everyone just to say, "Oh, I wrote a book." I don't want everyone just to tell me it's a good book. Tell me what's wrong with the book so I can make it better, right?
Yeah.
So I had this guy a week or so ago in the back. He's literally Tony Robbins' #1 salesperson. Now, Tony Robbins doesn't like to be considered a motivational speaker. He is, but and then he is. It's a whole enterprise of making money off thinking positive and being motivational, right? So it's all about sales. Oh, you talked about the guy in the back was selling. Another, I can make $1,000 that day doing this. He talked about money, right? Okay, great. That's he's making a lot of money, and he's #1 salesperson. I told him about I Think, Therefore I Am, Rene Descartes' famous line, and I truly believe in that's my mantra. He totally shut it down. He goes, "It's bullshit. Everyone laughs about it. It's laughable in the science of the mind and what have you." What are your feelings on that? I think, therefore I am. You've obviously heard that saying.
I think that it can be a tool. I think about like I think it can be a tool to help or hinder an individual's.
Well, the girl that said I'm sad and lonely, she's obviously thinking she's sad and lonely.
Yeah, but I think it's just, I think that it's like it can be a tool if it helps someone feel good and feel like they are growing and wanting to be and explore all of who they are. If that's their tool, go for it. I don't think that it is. I think that it is too
generic.
We live in a world that I don't think allows that to be the case, for it to be the answer. Because the world that we live in is tied to our history, which has created systems and laws and cultures that, you know, put other people down while giving power to only few at the expense of others.
Yep.
And so I think that, you know, it's a lot easier for a white able-bodied man to say, I am, what is it? What's the phrase?
I think, therefore I am.
I think, therefore I am, than a disabled trans person of color who is, in order to be who I am, you need actual systems to work for you. But those systems are actually don't work for you. So it's a lot more difficult.
What about the disabled guy, that story I told you earlier, when asked how he was, he would always say he's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And I'm sure, and he is out in the community. He has assistive technology, and that's his truth, and that's amazing, and that's beautiful. But that doesn't mean that he didn't have access to actual you can't, I mean, he needed access to assistive technology. He needed access to accommodations and just access so he could even be where he was.
Right.
Because for disabled people, we need, whether that be certain forms of transportation or assistive technology or just community, to support all of us in being in community. And not everyone has that.
Right.
So I would be leaving a lot of my people out of the conversation if my sole tool was to tell people, I think, therefore I am. Because that just doesn't, that's
just maybe one little cog in the wheel. Like the woman earlier, she said her mother has been a miserable person her entire life. She's 93 now. And just hates the world, hates everything, just is blaming everybody and everyone on her circumstance. You know, to me, I want to talk to that woman. You know, I mean, I think, you know, she's just on the wrong track. She's on a negative track.
But I think that from the get-go, you're like, she's on a negative track, and you may think that, but if you start the conversation with that, then you're starting with judgment.
Correct.
So and again, it goes to, I think that before making judgments about whether it's someone's mental health or what have you, meeting them where they're at and saying, like, you know, well, maybe not how are you, because we know that people say bullshit when it comes to that question, but, you know, a question I like to ask a lot is, how do you spend your days?
Okay.
You know, what is it, what...
Her answer would be in misery.
And I'd say, you know, what makes you miserable? And because I think that so many people, I think hurt people. And I think that when we judge each other all the time, and we're not curious enough about each other's own experience,
Nobody cares about anyone else. That's why you don't let anyone in traffic all they care about is themselves.
Yeah, but to me, I think what I want to do in my life is just to model what it means to be curious and to care about each other, because that also creates a ripple effect.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm as curious as the day long. That's why this show, Uplifting Interviews with Total Strangers, is so funny, because I ask questions that some people have never been asked before. I had a spine surgeon, and he spent $502,000 on his education, and he's going to his first day on work, and I asked him, how many discs are in your spine? He couldn't answer it. You know, I thought that was pretty funny, because he said, no one's ever asked me that question before.
Yeah.
Turns out there's 23, by the way, in case you're interested. But it's interesting that, like, how many bones are in the body. A nurse yesterday didn't know. A nurse didn't know that simple question that I learned, obviously from driving. But there's 206 bones in our body. In a normal and healthy body, obviously. We're going north. What city are we going to anyway?
We are going to Claremont.
Oh, Claremont, that's right. Yeah, you said that earlier. And you're still holding to that, huh?
I am. I'm going for work.
Going for work. Well, every day, they say, what is the saying? Yesterday is history, tomorrow a mystery, and today is a present, or a gift.
Yeah.
That's why they call it the present. So it is beautiful to be alive and challenged in life and doing something worthwhile in life. I love what you're doing. It's needed. It's going to be very fulfilling for you. What did you do before this?
I did. I've been involved in the disability community for a long time, but I have been doing direct service work with youth experiencing homelessness, LGBT youth with disabilities, and creating leadership development.
You went to school for this?
No,
you sound very educated, by the way.
I went to college in DC. I studied political science, but I think I've become the most educated by my peers, my friends, my experiences.
Okay. Well, you sounds like you have a challenge every day.
I do.
It makes the day go by and makes the day fulfilling, and I'm happy that you're doing that, and we need more people like you. So, Allie, in closing, how are you today?
You want me to say I'm fantastic?
I don't want you to say. I want you to say whatever you want to say.
I'm feeling really thankful. And
Now it's still a rhetorical question.
Well, I'm actually taking it as a real question.
It's a real question. Okay. So sometimes it is real.
It's how.
And it is real. I didn't ask you a real question because we're friends now, and I want to know how you are.
Oh.
But typically, I don't know, people just stroking me or whatever, but they always ended up with I'm fan-fucking-tastic. It's 90% of the time when people say it for the first time, I'm fantastic, I see a physical change in their body.
Oh, I mean, I believe
it's
it.
It's amazing
I'm
to watch.
It's
amazing to watch.
I'm fan-fucking-tastic.
It's whatever what you want to be, you could be sad and lonely, too.
I could be.
But I don't think it's healthy to be that way.
Yeah, but I
it's healthy to tell your psychiatrist that.
But I hope that
he's not a total stranger.
Sure. Yeah, I think that we all have things to learn and grow in terms of boundaries and where and how we want to share our feelings with people.
But what I figured is I can't change that question. Every single one of these people are going to ask that question today. I can change the answer, though. And I'm changing the answer one at a time. You just became the 710th person to be part of the Be Fantastic movement. You may or may not use it all the time, and I hope you do. And I hope you see a change when you do use it. But it's just making the world a better place, 2 smiles at a time. I say if you can make one person smile today, you've done a good thing. You made the world a better place. If you can make 10 people smile today, you've done great. You've done even better. And if you can make more than that smile every day, which I do on a consistent basis, you've done a fantastic thing. So I think I'm doing a fantastic thing by making people smile, if nothing else. Smile.
Great.
You'll live longer.
I smile. I laugh all the time.
Good.
Yep.
Allie, thanks for participating. She didn't want to do it at first. Do you regret or happy that you took the interview?
I I don't regret it.
Don't regret it. She's a politician. After her in this gig, she's going to be a politician the next one after you watch. Bye, Allie. Thanks for being part of the show.
Yeah, of course.
If you like what you're seeing, share, subscribe, like, but definitely go to YouTube and look up Help Dr. Fantastic and Thunder Save the Planet. It's a serious endeavor. Everyone needs to know what's going on. It's an extinction level event happening, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Fukushima nuclear disaster that happened 7 years ago. We lost an ocean. Don't lose the planet. Tune into the show. Help Dr. Fantastic and Thunder Save the Planet. Thank you, everybody, for watching. What was that a word? Watching?
And don't forget about disabled people.
Don't forget, yes.
And bring them to your tables and all decision making.
Exactly. And let them in traffic and all that good stuff. Be kind to one another, people. That's what you got to be, is be kind to one another. And anyway, everyone, be fantastic. Bye-bye.